Okay, I'm back. Okay. All right. Go back and watch that again. It's going to get funnier every time you do. Hey, welcome back to Frank's Modelworks. I'm Frank. Part 5. 3D printing series. We're doing all kinds of stuff here. We got through that first week. We're printing decent stuff. We're experimenting. We're downloading files. We're printing our own stuff. The thing with 3D printers, they're machines and they require maintenance. So you have to understand that there are consumables. There are parts that are definitely going to fail. What's up with this light right here? It's just like cutting me right. Is that any better? Nope, still ugly. There are consumables on your printer. The screen itself, believe it or not, the LCD screen that exposes the resin, is considered a consumable. So keep that in mind with the cost of the printer that you buy. Also check on its availability, because like if you buy a printer right off as soon as it's released, you might not have an LCD available for that printer for a little bit. I mean, you could always go through the manufacturer and try to deal with them. But in my case, the Saturn 4, the last time I checked, it's not available yet. But then I'm sure the Saturn 4 Ultra, it's going to change soon, I would imagine. And once they're available, I'll get another one. It's a little bit expensive for the LCD screen, but it's considered a consumable. I mean, you have thousands of hours of use out of one screen before you have to change it out. But I'm one of those people where bad things happen all the time. It's ridiculous. And I like to have extra parts on hand. Even for like my airbrushes, I could basically build another airbrush out of the parts that I have for each of my airbrushes. I'm just like that. I spend money on this hobby because even with the money that I spend, it's still a relatively inexpensive hobby. If I added up all of the stuff that I have for building models, it wouldn't even come close to that, like the price of a sports car or a special interest car, collector car. You're doing everybody a favor by participating in this hobby. I personally think, if you'd like, I can write a letter to whoever needs to hear that you're actually saving money by being a part of this hobby. I'll write that for you all day long. But anyway, consumables is something that you have to keep in mind. So like I said, the LCD screen is a consumable. But more commonly, you're going to be changing things like FEPs and PFAs. That's like the film on your resin vat that is a semi-transparent barrier between your LCD screen and the resin that's being exposed onto your build plate. It all makes like a big sanguija. Normally saying something like that would make me hungry, but I just ate, so we're good. In this episode, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how I changed the PFA film. For whatever reason, the Saturn 4 Ultra uses PFA film. I'm going to show you how I changed the PFA film on my Saturn 4 Ultra. I don't know, I'm not an expert, if it would be the same for changing your FEP on your printer, whatever your printer may be, or if you haven't bought a printer yet. So that would be an instance where you would consult the knowledge resources, the stuff that's available. I mean, if you look up your printer and the printer that you're interested in buying or have just bought, I'm sure you'll find stuff about changing parts and stuff like that. So your PFA film is a consumable. I've actually purchased not just extra PFA films, but I've also purchased an extra resin vat itself, in case at some point I ever want to have a couple of vats of resin going for different applications, like a clear vat, a vat of clear resin, for example, or different colors of the type of resin that I use. So you gotta, keep that in mind with budgeting for your purchase of a 3D printer. And again, I know I say this every time, but you also keep in mind of both the knowledge resources Scale Speed Garage, link in the description, and my favorite merchants who deal in 3D printed parts. Their links will be in the description, and their VCG Resins, Iceman Collections, Fireball Modelworks, and MCV products. Those are my favorites. Love buying their stuff. I get so excited when their stuff shows up. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to show you how to change the PFA film. Then we're going to deal with something that's going to require a little bit of maturity, which is going to be difficult for me. You'll understand why as soon as we get to that part, why it's difficult for me to say the things that I'm going to say in that part of the video. So let's get to that. Okay, just finished a print and I had a failure on one of the parts. It was one of the bases of the supports. It didn't print properly. When you see something like that, it's a good idea to drain your resin out of your resin vat and inspect your FEP or your PFA. The Saturn 4 Ultra has a PFA. They essentially do the same thing. So in doing that, I discovered, you see that right there? That's not good. That could lead to a perforation. So this was probably, while it was printing, it was probably driving a piece of cured resin into the PFA film, and that's not a good thing. That could eventually lead to a breach, and if your resin leaks out and gets through this film right here, the next step that it's gonna leak onto is your LCD screen. And then once the lights come on for the LCD screen, it's gonna start curing resin onto your LCD screen. And that's not a good day to have. You're in for a long, so it's a good idea as part of your routine maintenance of your 3D printer to every now and then, just make sure it's okay. If you're getting a good print, if your prints come out successfully, no parts have fallen off. If you notice when you take the build plate off and you're looking at the parts that one of the pieces fell off of the supports, you should probably drain your resin vat. I mean, you could put a glove on and feel around in here and try to find it, and you might actually find it, or you might have something that's stuck to the film itself, and you might get it off and be able to get it out. But I would still drain the resin out and inspect this your PFA or your FEP, because that's a bad day to have. I've seen a friend's printer a couple of years ago. This kind of thing happened, and it's not a pretty sight. So when that happens, to change your PFA film, the first thing I did was I did this off camera because I figured, hey, let's film this, get some content. So this is the reddish brown Allen wrench that comes with the printer. It fits these 4 bolts go in the corner. I call them bolts. I shouldn't call them bolts. Are they screws? They're screws. So these screws go in the corner, and they actually key into the part of the printer, the LCD assembly, that tilts away from the resin vat. So they key into that. It also allows you to put the resin vat itself on a hard surface like a table, and it'll rest on the heads of these, because these stand a little bit proud of this edge right here. So I used this one to remove these 4 screws, and they go into the corner. Next up would be a 2.5 millimeter. It comes with the printer itself, but it's just quicker to use this one. So when unscrewing, just throw them in a receptacle so you don't lose them. I'll speed this part up so that you don't watch me and my magic hands. So now I'm removing the frame that houses the PFA film from the resin vat. So once you've taken that out, set it aside for a moment, preferably on another piece of silicone like I just did. This is a silicone mat, by the way. If you buy one of these, what are the dimensions on this? We're looking at about 16 inches by, ooh, it helps to have this here, by about 12 inches. So 16 by 12. Elegoo sells these. If you buy a silicone mat, try to get one with a lip. It'll prevent resin from dripping off of it and onto your floor. Uncured resin is nasty, nasty stuff. To it, there's uncured resin right there. So I'm gonna go put some gloves on. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. My gloves on like a good boy. These are my delicate task wipes from Kimtech. I link to them. I don't think you don't need to buy them. I just buy them because I like them. I use them for everything. They don't leave a lot of lint behind like shop towels will. So I just put some isopropyl alcohol. This is actually high test. This is 99%. That's a lie right there. That's a lie. This is 99%. You know, where's the Sharpie? Give me the Sharpie. Get over here. We demand accuracy. All right. Everybody feel better now? Good. Excellent. We're saving lives here, kids. We're making a difference. Just go in here and get the, I know it's staggering how much of a lunatic I am. Just go in here and get any excess resin. Not much will drip into here. If there's a lot of resin in here, you got bigger fish to fry. It shouldn't be making it past this lip right here. Now, another thing you might notice is in these threads, because the PFA, these screws go through the PFA film, you might have remnants of the last PFA film. Geez, I hope my head wasn't in the shot just then. So you could go in there and clean those out, which I like to do because I like cleaning things. Did you guys ever watch my airbrush cleaning video? It is entirely too much cleaning to the point of psychosis. But I have fun. I like cleaning my airbrush because I'm a weirdo. All right, I'm gonna shut up now. Okay, I just went around and cleaned the resin vat itself, and it's good enough to eat off of right now, but don't, because this resin is pretty nasty stuff. I'm just really good at cleaning stuff. All right, hold on a second. Let's do the frame. Now, the frame is going to have more resin on it because the PFA itself... See that L? I put that L there so that I could remind myself that that is the lowest surface, just so I know. But you'll be able to tell just by looking at it. So now we're moving off of the 2.5. We'll throw that in there with the other screws, and we're moving to a 2.0 millimeter Allen head driver socket plus tax and deposit. Go around and unscrew these. I'll spare you, but only this time. Okay, all my screws are loose. too easy. So the frame just comes apart like so, and you take your old PFA out because it's a failure. That's right, you're a failure. You had to be the funny kid in high school. That's why you wound up going to a crappy college and now you climb telephone poles for a living. It's a bit much, but you gotta let it know it's a failure. I haven't climbed a pole in probably 10 years. Anyway, do the same treatment with this. I'll be back when this is done. Okay, on your Saturn 4 Ultra, when you're putting this back together, just so you know which side is which. One side will have the threads in the numerous holes, and the other side will be countersunk, like that. So we know that that frame's gonna fit together like that. You'll see that the holes line up with threads. And next what we do is we get our new PFA film. I might take these gloves off because it helps with my dexterity. I have removed all of the... let me just do it. You wanna do everything with gloves on? Go ahead. I got rid of all the resin's gone. So this is actually covered on two sides. That pulls apart. Just try to be careful with this once you get the protective films off. It doesn't really matter which side, you know, blue side up or whatever. You're not going to remember anyway. So let's get that. There is going to be overhang. So just know that that is the case. So now this is going to go over here. Before you do anything, you line it up, and now check again, make sure that your margins are good, that you're actually lined up. Like that. That is lined up. Now the next thing you could do for the first one, I do it for the first hole, for the first screw on each side. Give it a little pierce like that. And the reason why I do that is I would like to get these screws in as quickly as possible, at least these first two screws in as quickly as possible without the PFA film. Does anybody remember which one? I'm just kidding. This way, because you're actually like shifted just now. Just make sure you're still lined up. Grab another screw. It's gonna go in here. Now the rest of them I'm not gonna poke holes in because I don't know, it's kind of based on something that we used to do at work where we have this watertight seal on stuff. You wanted it incorporated in the threads as much as possible. I'm sure that's changed over the years, but who knows? Difference doesn't make. You want to poke a hole in all of them, go right ahead. So what I'm going to be doing, it's kind of like bolting down a manifold or an oil pan. You go around diagonal opposites and you screw these down. You gotta be careful later on, but try not to get any perforations, drop anything onto here while you're doing this. So I did those. So now I just did this one. So let's go to here. Start this side. Oh, I'll spare you guys this, but just so you can neckbeard me in the comments, I'm gonna go here, here, then 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 I'm gonna go here, here, like that. Just, you know, just so you can start typing that I'm wrong. All right, hold on. Okay, so I cinched all the screws on the frame, and I managed to not get the PFA film crooked. Don't worry so much about any... What the hell is that? Don't worry so much about wrinkles now. This actually gets tightened in the next step. But we do want to trim the excess, so I have an X-Acto blade. Just very carefully try to get at a slight angle to the surface and trim. Little finesse around the corners. Which obviously I lack. Yeah, finesse is not one of my strong suits. I'm told. Watching me dance is like watching Peter Ponibus negotiate a minefield. Remember Peter Potamus with the Hippo Hurricane Holla? If you remember him, put him down in the comments. And don't look this up, but if you know off the top of your head, what was his sidekick's name? Give you a hint. He was a monkey. So now, get the blade as far away from this as humanly possible. I've done it. I've put the blade right through, dropped it, put it right through. Had to start over. I've actually done this a couple of times where I had to start over 3 or 4 times because I would drop the driver onto the newly tightened film, which was awesome. So now I'm using my L's for loser, saying, hey loser, this is the side you want to see when you're putting in the other screws. So you get that on there. Now you switch your driver back to the 2.5 millimeter head. And this is going to be the same thing. You're going to start in one corner. Now you're going to pop through. Don't tighten it all the way down. This, more so than the frame itself, the other side that we just screwed, it's more important that you do the diagonal opposites here because of the way this is going to... the way this functions is what makes this tight. And if you screw these in all at once, you're going to wind up bending the frame, which could cause, probably won't, but it could lead to earlier failure of the vat itself. The threads could, you could wind up cross-threading. So I did that. So now I want to do a diagonal opposite and go here. So again, the reason why I just pop them through the PFA is that I want the PFA itself to wrap itself around these threads. Might be right, might be wrong. Sure, I'll find out one way or another, but I do it for a reason and it hasn't failed me yet, but don't want to appeal to my own authority. If I should be doing it and you know better and you know why and you can make an argument, then please, by all means. All right, so from here, I want a diagonal opposite. So I'll go here. Diagonal opposite of here. It's funny, as this thing gets tighter, my voice is actually going to start to echo off of it. It's going to bounce off of it. And it produces a weird effect. So I just did this one. So let's do a diagonal opposite of this one. So right now I'm trying to get the frame even with these rails. But once this thing is cinched down all the way, it's going to be very, very slightly recessed. But we don't want to do that all in one. We're going to be going around. Let's do this. Let's do this. And let's pop up here. So now, now I did my first initial tighten. Now I'm going to go around diagonals and tighten it until these screws bottom out. A little bit at a time. And what you'll notice is you might cinch this down and it feels like it's getting tight, and then as you go around, it'll feel loose again. So I just did this, so I'm going to do this. Unless I just did that. Stop talking to me, I'm in the middle of doing something. All right, let's do this one. So I hear this is also kind of like tuning a drum. I've never tuned a drum, so I wouldn't know. But if it is, let me know. Also tell me your favorite drummer. These are all basically seated. And keep in mind, I'm not really applying Gorilla Torque to these. It's not like I'm just making sure. If you wanted to go really crazy, you could do a frequency test where you hit the... Actually sounds kind of tight. And if it's in a particular hertz range... Oh, I just got scared. I looked in the screen and I saw this. Where that I thought it was a mar in the PFA film, which has happened. It's gonna happen right now when I put these last screws in. Watch. Okay, so these last ones go in. They also go through the PFA film. And like I said, these will stand proud of this frame. If you want to do these diagonally, sure. At this point, though, the other screws, these screws just basically accomplished what you needed to accomplish. These are more to key it in and hold it in place over the LCD screen and the tilting assembly of the Saturn 4 Ultra. I don't know. The Saturn 4 Ultra is my first 3D printer. Might have mentioned that. So I don't know if your printer, what it uses, if the procedure is the same. It's now is there what was I gonna say? Sorry, I'm trying to be very, very careful right now because I don't want to have to redo this. I'm not joking. One night, I think 3 times I had to redo it. Let's get the tools out of the way. So, like I said, the printer has a counter. I'll show you how to reset that in a second. The counter goes off at 60,000 pulls. So, in other words, dips away from the build plate with the tilting with the tilting mechanism. So, if you want to change your PFA then, at the very least, that should be, I mean, you should be checking this thing a lot more often than that, to be honest with you. But definitely every time you have a failure, print failure, check it. If you have a piece that comes off of the supports, check it. If you have something that looks like it didn't print right and it looks a little fakakta, check this. And I realize it's a pain in the neck to drain the resin vat. And, you know, in order to drain the resin vat, you gotta... What's good about this resin vat is that it has the 2 spouts over here. So what you would do is with a funnel, you put this in the funnel, because this is gonna... filter out any cured resin, and you just pour it back into your bottle of resin. And if there is anything in there, you know, and then once you do that, once you pour as much of the resin as you can out of the vat, just go through very lightly and make sure that there's nothing wrong with the screen. Drain it all out, clean. When you drain the resin out, there's always going to be a slight even if you use the vat cleaning utility on the printer, which I don't really use very much. Generally speaking, if I'm draining the resin out, I'm generally, for the most part, if this is fine, I'm not going to cure it. I'm just going to keep going. But if you use the utility to cure the resin and clean the vat, you could do it that way if you want less uncured resin waste. I take my rags and I leave them in a clear plastic bag out in the sun to cure them, and then I get rid of them. But you know, if you want to cut down on the amount of uncured resin, definitely whatever you do, don't ever flush it down a drain. That's a dirtbag thing to do. It's really bad for the environment. If you got a septic system, it's not good. Bad news. So use the guidance of the local ordinances where you live to determine how you're going to dispose of your waste that's related to 3D printing and uncured, particularly uncured resin. Cured resin isn't really that, it's plastic, you know. Throw that in with the whatever the case may be. You might have to recycle plastic in your area. So I don't know. I don't know where you live. You know where I live, that's for sure. All right. On to the next thing. Okay, in order to reset the counter on your PFA film, if you really care about such things, you would go over to the screen, go to Tool, and then go over to Device Self-Test. And over here, you see the count is at 36,993. Next to it is oh, damn it. Sorry. Next to it is a little button. You hit that button. Please confirm that the replacement of the release film. Once confirmed, the usage count will be cleared. I want to confirm that. Confirm. So now it went back to 0. So that's how you do that. Now, because I interrupted it, I'm just going to make it go through it again. Just get away from it. Because there's a mechanical sensor. Every time you print, it goes through this calibration. Every time you turn the printer on, it goes through this entire test itself. So it'll tell you everything you need to know. You notice, I don't know if you can see it now. The reason why I'm zoomed in so tight is because my grow tent setup is a little, as we said in the neighborhood, it's a little lower Ridgewood. So I don't want to show anybody because I don't feel like getting neck bearded in the comments. So now it's going to go through its thing. It's already done. So like if you saw this during when you turn it on, it'll go back to the main screen. But this one, because I went to this device self-test, I have to manually go back to the home screen. So this is the home screen. So if I wanted to print a file, I'd choose it out of here. And I still got to add resin. But if you're not printing, folks, and you got no resin in your vat, make sure your hood is closed so it doesn't collect dust. All right, hold on. So like I said, in resetting the PFA count, I did move the camera back so we could look at where the printer is. Like I said, the thing that I have that goes over this area is over there. I don't like showing the parts of my basement that aren't directly involved with, because it's personal. Got stuff going on. And also my grow tent setup is a little bit, like I said, cobbled together. to say the least. I think it gets the job done because I also, in addition to the exhaust that goes out through the sill right about 6 feet from where my finger is pointing, straight in that direction. It's vented right to the outside. I do have the Elegoo Mars Mate air purifier. It's kind of like a HEPA filter. And also I haven't put any resin in, so it's okay having this open like this. In addition, I have several of these little fellers. I have 2 that go inside here while I'm printing, and then I have a couple more that I just put around the shop. I also have 2 windows in that direction. One has an exhaust fan, and then in that direction is the happy corner where the spray booth is. So when I'm printing, usually I'm not down here very long while it's printing. Nobody will come down here really for the most part, because this is kind of my space, with the exception of occasionally some people will come down for the laundry, but for the most part I'm the only one down here. So when I do have a print that's going to be on, I try to do it either while I'm at work or while everybody else is also at work and at school, or overnight when nobody's going to be down here, because my son works nights, so he's not going to be around. So I do have mitigation stuff going on. I realize it's well intentioned that people are going to have something to say about the setup, that it's not sufficient. Cool, dude, listen, you want to come to my house and build me a printing shed with heat, you're more than welcome, but it's on your dime. Okay? Sound good? Excellent. Now that we said that, let's look at some parts that are consumables that we need to keep in mind. That air purifier, the HEPA filter in that, it's about $80. I've replaced it once, but I've done a lot of printing since September. A lot. And I kept it on by mistake for a couple of weeks because I forgot. Oops. Anyway, so one of the main reasons why I came over here is this. I wanted to show you, and I have shown you in the past, the build plate. Now if you look at my build plate, it is fairly scratched up. See if we get some light on it. It is scratched up pretty well. Let me hold on for a second. I'll bring you over to the other camera and show you. Stand by. Okay, here is my build plate. This is the surface upon which all of the stuff is printed. These laser etchings help burn the bottom layers of my print. It helps them stick. So you'll notice that there are scratches. These are not a big deal unless they have a raised edge. Then it might be a problem. But as you can see, I'm rubbing my finger on them along the edge. There's nothing with a raised edge. Those are just scratches. They're just character. But if they ever do become a problem, I have a spare. I actually used the spare in the video about the calibration. So that was my spare one. Just sitting here waiting. Because like I said, I'm a klutz. I break a lot of stuff. I'm not very smart. So when you're stupid, you got to have 2 things. You got to have resilience, and you got to have spare parts. So if you want to be dumb, you got to be tough. You got to have spare parts. So let's go back over there. Okay, we're back over here, having just shown you my build plate, which I will place very carefully. Whenever I'm touching this build plate and undoing this latch or redoing that latch, I always hold on to it, because bad things will happen with this LCD screen. It's you got to be careful. Like if this thing falls in this area, it's going to hit the LCD screen and it could damage it. So when I use these I put them, they fit in here, and like if you remember the cameras here, I don't really use the cameras, so it's not, I'd rather have this in here helping filter the air, which comes out through here and then goes into the back of the HEPA filter, and then that's blown out through the less than elegant grow tank exhaust setup that I have, but it works. It never smells like resin down here, and so that's my setup for that. Now for the part that I warned you about, that people are going to be very surprised. And I think the best effect we'll have when we talk about this subject is if I point the camera at myself. I'm going to do that now. It is imperative when you have a 3D printer that you maintain adequate lubrication of your vertical shaft using grease. Listen, if you know me in real life, you know how hard it was for me to say that without saying anything stupid. It gets worse, because the grease that I use, Billy Buckskin, that's an adult entertainment name if I've ever heard one. Billy Buckskin Grease Whiz, food grade grease. Pinky out. Like an aristocrat. We're trying to keep it classy, kids. Let's go back over there and I'll show you what we do. Hold on. So right now the build plate is riding the vertical shaft. It has to do so with an amount of precision so that there's no vibration or friction that would cause vibration, which would then, if there's vibration, you'll see that in the prints with like a shaking or a shifting in the prints. So you do have to keep that lubricated. Now, not just the shaft, which I'm going to show you in a second. Come on, Frank, you can do this. This shaft right here is what your build plate rides on. But also, these two columns also need to be lubricated. So in order to do that, if you find like and if you have subjects that you're printing that are fairly large in the, which is, you know, up and down, you might have a potential to see like shifting. If that's the case, then you might want to clean these rails, depending on the design of your printer, and clean the shaft and then re-lubricate it. In order to do that, I use this brush, which used to come with a couple of bottles of resin. But any brush like this, you can get these at any art supply store. You don't have to definitely don't spend a lot of money. It doesn't need to, you're slathering grease on. You could technically do it with a gloved hand if you want, but even that's too much of a temptation for me. I'm not mature enough to handle something like that. So you make sure that this jack screw is cleaned, and then these two metal rails are clean, and then you apply. So what you do is get your build plate shuttle down as far as you can. There is a setting on this utility for moving this that will, you could set it for 1 millimeter for 10 millimeters or 50 millimeters. So when I'm doing this, I actually set it for 50 millimeters because it moves the most. So this is going to stop just about there. So you would then lubricate, clean and lubricate as much of this as possible. Once that's done, you hit the return to home. You'll notice the tilting mechanism is going on because that's part of the return to home. That's going to take its sweet time to get back up there. But if you want, you could just then grease over here. Now, it might look like I didn't. These rails actually end in here. So that part doesn't need to be lubricated, and your build plate never gets any. The shuttle never gets anywhere near that, so it's wasted. But keep it clean and lubricated anyway. So now it's gonna a little bit further, and it'll stop. Okay. And then you would just clean, lubricate in here. Okay? These are available in a set of 2, and they're like $20 for the set of 2. They're USB rechargeable, and they come with an extra charcoal filter that goes in the top. As far as their efficacy goes, I'm sure experts are going to disagree. Okay? I'm doing the best I can, given the circumstances that I have. Not to make light of the subject. I realize you have to exercise a certain degree of safety when using this stuff. It is nasty stuff, and I'm not making light of this situation. I just don't want people to think that I don't take any precautions. I take as many precautions as I possibly can, given what I have available to me. So, 6 or 7 feet of exhaust fan ducting that goes right out my sill to the outside with an exhaust fan and the HEPA filter and these little charcoal filters inside there, and then the HEPA filter and all that inside of an enclosure venting directly to the outside with an exhaust fan out that window. I don't really open that window in the winter. And then I have the exhaust fan for the spray booth going. I appreciate your concern. I'm okay. If I was really worried about it, I would do more, but I think I'm okay with what I have. So that's that. You do have to maintain these things. Again, and it's something that you might have to budget for. But at a very minimum, you should have PFA film or FEP film that's compatible with your printer. I would recommend at least one spare resin vat. As I showed you in the I think the second video, the spare resin vat comes with a nice little cover that doesn't come with the printer itself because they can't fit it inside the packaging. Pardon me while I cross my leg. My back has been killing me. The only thing that if you can, if it's available for your printer, please look into getting a spare LCD screen just to have it. Most LCD screens are going to last you several thousand hours. The machines themselves are 20,000 hour machines. So the machinery itself, you get 20,000 hours out of it. That's believe it or not, that's a pretty long time. The screen is probably going to last you 2,000 to 4,000 was, I think, the number that I read. That's a long, long time. Even if I'm doing 20-hour prints, that's 100 of those prints before, you know what I mean? 100 car bodies? I'm in no rush to do that. So, On top of the other stuff, consumables like paper towels, these little screens for funnels, isopropyl alcohol. Even if you use water washable, I would have it on hand, just to, it helps clean parts that might have some uncured resin on them still, even after you've washed them. Keep resin on hand. Believe it or not, you go through it pretty quick. Especially if the first couple of months, because I was home and I had nothing else to do, I printed a lot, but it slowed down a little bit. But these are all things, you make yourself a list. There are links. I don't know if anybody notices this. Obviously not, because I still get asked the questions about links. There are links to literally everything in the descriptions underneath the video. Any link if I discuss a product or anything, even spare parts for this printer, the Saturn 4 Ultra, and the Mars 5 Ultra, I believe I put even links for that as well. They're in the description, so check them out. So, as always, I got Frizzo's back. I appreciate your support. Until we speak again, my friends, take care of yourselves and be well.